So today we're going to talk about QAing calls faster and just keeping your reps accountable. And we have some tips and tricks for doing that and some great new technology to help. So it's not something you can easily do without AI, but AI is here for you. It's your tool and your best friend for really digging into those call transcripts and understanding what your reps are talking about and how they're addressing it on calls. And that's so important for any sales manager to consider, obviously. They need that bird's eye view of what's happening throughout their call center. So if there's issues, they can remedy them very quickly. So if you don't have those tools, you kind of have these blind spots and you're kind of guessing what's going on in your call center. And we don't want that, especially in today's day and age where AI tools are everywhere. They're very easy to use, easy to onboard. Everything's pretty plug and play. So we'll give you an overview of all that's at your disposal so you can improve rep performance. So my name's Jennifer Rizzi. I'm head of product marketing and content here at Alaware. It's nice to virtually meet you all. And I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Chris. Chris, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Chris Martin. I'm the director of sales here at Alaware. So I run our sales team and our partnerships team.
Yes, Chris is an awesome sales director. So he's going to add some color with his own firsthand experience of how he uses our own tools to manage his team, which is really exciting. So I work in marketing, but I have an enablement background, just so you all know. So I have coached reps before. Chris coaches them every day. So we're really eating our own dog food, so to speak, even though that's not the best phrase. We use our own products every day. So we know what it's like in the trenches, and we really couldn't survive without it. So excited to show you what we have in store. So the problem with traditional sales and support call review is that supervisors are juggling hundreds of calls across shifts. There's just too much to keep track of. The larger your team is, the more calls you have to QA. And any good manager should know if reps are staying on playbook and what they're actually talking about calls, but that's just very difficult when you have, dozens or hundreds of calls. So the more you scale, the more challenging it becomes. If you're a small team of 5 reps, it's maybe not so tough to get on there and maybe try to listen in on calls as they're happening live. But especially if you're a remote team, even if you're small and remote and your reps are spread across the country or the world, you really just don't know what they're saying on calls. And that can hurt your business growth if they're not pitching products the right way, if they're not staying on playbook. So process is hugely important to sales and to scaling. But if you don't have those eyes into your reps' day-to-day operations, it can be very difficult. But manually reviewing calls, which is how it's traditionally done, is just super time consuming. So, we all kind of hate scrubbing through those recordings, looking for that pivotal moment where a customer canceled their subscription or they complained or they said they were going to file a complaint, or on the positive end, if they praised a rep, if they decided to renew their subscription. It kind of works both ways. So it's not always negative. You also want to see what reps are really doing well and what you can learn from that, and then use that coaching to scale success for your other reps. So, but manually scrubbing calls is just not feasible in today's world where there's so much going on for sales leaders. It's also inconsistent. So sometimes you have different QA people on your team. One person might be hyper focused on compliance, where the next person is hyper focused on playbook and the sales process. So sometimes you're not always seeing people QAing calls the same way or fairly or objectively for the reps, which can be a problem as well. And it's also incomplete. So if you're relying on manual reviews and rep notes, people are human. They forget to add things. Sometimes they might be a little biased to make their own performance look better, but other times they're just simply forgetful and they forget to record what a customer said. Salespeople are built for connection. They're built for relationship building. So they're not always, the most diligent in recording notes, which is not helpful for sales leaders because you have to know what's going on. And sometimes those key moments that we talked about are just buried in hours of recordings. So again, where conversations shifted, if they got better, if they went south, you kind of need to know where that happened in the call to see if your reps addressed that objection properly or if they responded with the right pitch or the right discount. But if your moments are buried in those hours of recordings, you're going to spend a lot of time trying to search for that exact moment where things shifted in the conversation. And sometimes you might find it and get lucky, but sometimes you might not find it. So I know that's a huge pain point. And then it's hard to identify coaching opportunities at scale, of course. So again, like we talked about, if reps are really crushing it and they're nailing those pitches, and one rep is the leader on the sales board, it's very hard to understand what they're doing correctly and apply that to the rest of the team if you don't have that visibility into the calls. But we solved this problem with your new QA assistant. It's called Allo AI Voice Analytics. So it takes the power of AI and it instantly generates transcripts, AI summaries, and keyword highlights for every call across your org. And the great thing is you can filter it by ring group, by team. You can kind of drill down into different departments and see how they're performing. And it actually surfaces those exact keywords that are coming up very often in calls. It lets you read the full transcripts if you want to, but you don't even have to read the full transcripts because you can read these short, concise AI summaries in a minute or less, and they're pretty much instantly generated. It might take, under a minute for them to populate, and then that saves you those hours of scrubbing call recordings. So it really is, important for, shortening sales cycles and getting in there every day and protecting your own time as a sales leader. So it cuts your review time by up to 80%, of course, because think of how many minutes you're saving without scrubbing recordings. So if you're only reviewing every call for 1 minute by reading the short summary that really captures everything you need to know. And they're not arbitrary summaries, as you'll see. Chris will kind of go into that later, but they're very detailed summaries while also still being concise and flagging what you need to flag. And you can totally customize them as well. So you can train the AI to listen for exactly what you want it to listen for, to match your specific KPIs and your specific playbook. So you're really cutting out the fluff, but you're still getting the insights that you need. And if you have compliance concerns, we definitely have PII redaction as well. So you're taking out prospects' personal informations like, names, medical history, financial history, things like that. So all of that is nicely packaged and protected for sensitive information. So you don't have to worry about that spreading throughout your org. And we have natural language search as well, which Chris will demonstrate in a bit and kind of talk more about. So visual sentiment overviews at a glance. You can see customer sentiment trends too and agent sentiment trends. So you can see if they're performing well on calls and if customers are mostly negative. So you can kind of gauge their satisfaction that way. And we'll see percentages in just a moment. You can see, if agents are responding the right way and they're kind of keeping calls positive, or if they mostly have maybe a negative or stubborn tone, which isn't really the best for customer facing roles. And that's something that you would want to go in and remedy with training. So you can see, trends across teams. Maybe, your billing team doesn't have the best sentiment, but your sales team does. So, we can learn from each other that way. And you can filter by team, by ring group, or by call type, like I was saying. So you can really separate that throughout your org and get a sense of how individual teams are performing. So if you do notice that a negative trend is surfacing, the nice thing is you can click into those calls and you can review speaker separated transcripts with actual timestamp notes. So you can really hone in there and see, what happened on the call and read that transcript. Not that you necessarily have to read every single transcript out there, but if there is a point of concern, you can really focus in and see what went wrong on that call. And this really helps you identify coaching moments without guesswork. So I'm going to switch screens for just a second so you can show you what the product looks like. So this right here is an example of our voice analytics product, and you can get to it very easily from the dashboard. So just navigate to your Alloware dashboard, click voice analytics if you have this product add-on enabled. And you can see here that it really breaks down the stats of everything you need to know. It shows you how many calls were transcribed. And I will clarify that this is just our development account. It's our QA account because we don't want to show, real rep or customer data for privacy reasons. So this may not look super accurate. It's just our development team, but you get the sense of how it works. So you see the number of calls transcribed, keyword occurrences, talk time, which is really important. So you see, how long reps are talking versus customers. And if reps are talking more than they're listening, that might indicate a problem, that they have to work on their listening skills and, really tailor their pitches to customer concerns. And it's really a good way to coach and train them. So you see these talk time ratios broken down. You can see bar graphs here that make it super clear. So you can see, agent sentiment, that's this one. So we have, 38% positive. And you can even see a breakdown of how it compares to their peers across your org as well. So that's really super helpful for comparative reasons. Customer sentiment over here. So this is positive, this is neutral, and this is negative. So it's very easy to follow. And like I said, if you wanted to drill down into those negative calls, just click on this filter here, and then it gives you some more information there, and you can scroll down and actually find those specific transcripts. Word analytics helps you track the keywords. So when you're setting up your own voice analytics, you can track the keywords that are most important to you. So maybe product mentions or competitor mentions, specific features that you're looking for feedback on. And then this is the call categories. So it really shows you the categories that are talked about most often across your org. So that's kind of how it works. And we'll kind of get into some summaries right now and how those look. So it's really awesome, like I said, that you can review calls in a minute or less. And then I'll kick it over to Chris to kind of talk about how he uses these summaries in real life to coach his team.
Perfect. Thanks. So yeah, I'm actually old enough to have been around before AI call summaries even existed. So I'm definitely familiar with having to listen in on all calls manually and how much time that takes. So I think Jennifer hit the nail on the head about that just not being scalable and not being an effective use of time. So the Ava voice analytics has been a huge help for me and my team already. The call summaries are great for a couple different reasons. One, it's just an easy way to go back and review the call without having to spend an hour listening to the entire thing. But from a rep perspective, one of their favorite things typically is that it also records the takeaway action items. So a lot of times reps won't be great at taking notes while they're on a call. They're kind of immersed in the conversation. And before we had the analytics and summaries, they would miss follow-up items that they needed to do or action items they needed to send to the lead or prospect. Our summaries capture all that. So they can just quickly go back and review, okay, I need to send them this one pager, send them the compliance documentation and quickly do that, but still stay immersed in the actual conversation they're having with the lead, which I think is just better from a sales perspective, conversation perspective, and a better selling experience and buying experience for the customer. Obviously, it's very, very quick to access these, pull them up and read them, which is just a great thing for one-on-ones with reps when you're going over their calls for the month, picking out some key calls, reviewing those summaries, asking questions about why this question was asked or why you positioned this way. It just makes it a lot easier, a lot more streamlined, and gives you that concrete data to actually provide beneficial coaching to the reps.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for adding that color. And to your point, it's helpful for the reps themselves because they don't have to take notes. No rep likes taking notes. That's tedious.
Yeah.
That's manual. They want to focus on being present, being in the moment, and really having those great conversations and pushing deals across the finish line. And that opens up so much more time for them. It also helps them, they don't forget next steps. It really breaks down next steps, between the reps and the customer. So you know who's responsible for what. And I'm sure that's probably very helpful for you as a sales manager. So reps can't kind of skirt around dropping the ball when it's all in the AI summaries of what the next steps are.
It does provide a good level of transparency. That's very helpful from a management perspective, certainly.
Yeah, I love that. So just kind of moving on here. So we have, the keyword search for trend analysis. So we have a feature called Ask Allo AI where you can actually get in there and search for specific phrases. So if you only care about pricing, for example, or you care about a certain product feature that just got released, you don't even have to read the whole summary. So if you're really pressed for time, you can just search and Ask Allo AI, and then the AI surfaces that specific information for you. So like I said, huge, huge time saver. I don't know if you have your screen handy, Chris, to demonstrate it. If you don't, no worries. I can certainly, bring all of that up on my end too, but just wanted to check what you preferred.
Yeah, if you want to pull up on your end, that'd be great. The keyword search and Ask Allo AI is honestly probably my favorite feature of our voice analytics product. Mostly for one specific reason that I use on any call review with a rep, where I just type in what questions were asked by the agent during this call. And for me, that's a really, really key component of any sales process or pitch that's being offered to a lead is asking intelligent questions, doing proper discovery, learning about what their needs are, what their issues are with their current provider, and what could be better, what they're looking for, how to help them, and a little bit more about their business. So if I type in what questions were asked during this call and I see that it's the lead that's asking all the questions, then I know to coach my rep on running proper discovery, scoping the actual work and product that they're looking for and what their pain points are so that we can start addressing them and solution match with Alloware's product offerings. So for me, that alone, just being able to type in what questions were asked And Jennifer, I'm not seeing the Allo AI screen if you're pulling it
I
up. I
can
don't.
go into that. Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
So,
Yeah. So if you click on the Ask Allo AI, just right to the next transcription. So you can just type it in what questions are asked during this call. It's not only going to parse that down for both the agent and the lead, but will also skip to the portions of the call where that question was asked. So a lot of times with sales reps, it's not just exactly what you say. A lot of times it's how you say it. So if I need to dig into the tonality of how a question is asked, or if a rep is having the right inflections and the right impactful statements, it's nice to have the call recording across the top just jump to that section of the call immediately for me so I can listen to it if the actual transcription doesn't give me enough data to do any actual coaching on, if that makes sense.
Yep. So you can see how the interface looks. And again, this kind of being an example, it may not reflect what you would see on a daily basis, but you get the idea. So here's the transcript. It's broken down by speaker. So we have our support person here, and the speaker's name or the customer's name in this case is redacted for privacy reasons. So it flags certain keywords. And the nice thing about this is you can play back the recording right here and listen to it, but you don't have to listen to the whole thing. So you can jump to specific parts of interest, and you can do that by keywords. So if you see these little dots here, when you set up your keywords that you want to track, it'll actually track those throughout the whole recording. So you can see which ones they are. So if I click on this little dot, automations. So if you're hyper focused on automations, it skips in the transcript right here. So you can read the breakdown, but you can also listen back up here and play the recording too. That's also a big time saver. So you can see the highlights. The AI automatically pulls highlights from the call. So it's kind of like this little bullet point list that gives you a solid idea of what was talked about. We have entity tracking as well. So you can see, everything that it's pulling, and this is all very customizable during the setup. And contact information, and then here's the custom keyword frequency at the bottom. So it actually shows you how many times each keyword was mentioned. So I think you can see right here that this is just a really, really fast way to get a sense of what's happening on every call.
100%. And even though those keywords weren't really shown, you can actually, yeah, you can jump to the next one if you'd like.
Yeah.
Those keywords were just pretty basic Alaware, but that's completely customizable. So you can put in pricing, discounts, competitors' names, which I think Jennifer mentioned earlier, which are all very, very helpful to not only just have a high level view of how many of your calls is pricing the biggest objection that you're running into or competitors being brought up, which from kind of a macro perspective, I think can help guide more senior leadership in the decisions about their pricing structure, but also just on an individual call basis to see if pricing is the biggest challenge that a rep is running into on a consistent basis, then he may need some more coaching on how to position the product before even going into pricing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really helpful for your development team as well. So if you're trying to prioritize which features get updated or even where your product roadmap is heading, to really understand what customers are focused on product wise in the calls is a game changer for that too. So, if you
Yeah.
only have so many resources to invest, you want to make sure that you're putting them in the right places and you're propping up the features that customers are most likely to buy, of course.
I I think that's a really, really great point, Jennifer. Yeah, I mean, the best product roadmap is one that is customer led, in my opinion. And so having that tracking that's just nails and there's just no debating it, this is what gets brought up most, I think really does help from a product standpoint, build things that your customers are asking for. And that's something that Alloware does very well. And we do rely on this very heavily for some of that product roadmap building. So yeah, I think that outside of sales, it's very helpful in that regard too.
Definitely. And just going back to the rep coaching for a moment, to have those real examples when you're sitting down with your reps where you can point to that call summary or the actual moment in the transcript where maybe they dropped the ball or were confused, or maybe they did really well, to actually have that evidence right in front of you, you're going to reduce the pushback from those reps. Because I know as someone who's done enablement, sometimes reps are very stubborn and they think they know the best way or the right way. And
All the time, reps are very stubborn, in my opinion, but yes.
yeah, any sales leader can understand that very easily. So, you need that hard data and that evidence when you're actually trying to improve their performance or, maybe set up a performance plan or something like that. So, it really reduces that pushback so you can go over everything together. But ultimately, you're all playing on the same team. They want to succeed, you want them to succeed. So having that actual evidence that you can go through quickly together, or send them in an email or a Slack to say, hey, you might want to work on this, or your colleague is doing this a lot better and here's what we can learn from them. So it really just boosts the performance of the team overall.
Absolutely.
Huh.
And the next.
Anything else that top of mind that you wanted to say before we go into questions, Chris?
Yeah, I did just want to mention the automatic daily summaries, which I think is also a huge help to any sales leader. It's just going to give you a high level overview of who your top agents were that day from a talk time perspective, from a dials perspective, from an interesting calls perspective or positive calls perspective, which is great just for giving shout outs and recognizing the reps that are overperforming and going above and beyond what their daily activity requirements are. It's also a really good way to just have a high level view of maybe who's not trying to push past just their minimum daily requirements, which is great from management perspective to identify that early on and be able to speak to the rep about it as quickly as possible. And those daily digests are something I look forward to at this point every day. It's exciting when I see that, okay, all three of my reps are in the top three right now. That's fantastic. But it's really great, even if you're out for one day or you're sick or on vacation, just to have that high level overview of how your team's calls went that day is very, very helpful. And it kind of gives you that, I don't know, detailed access, even if you're out of the office for a minute.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up. That's a great point because you don't even have to log into Alloware to check that. It meets
Yeah,
you where you are, and managers are on the move. Maybe you're traveling for sales calls and customer visits, and you just don't have access to your laptop, but you want to see what your reps are doing. So it really is that nice, concise digest that comes right to your email. You can click on it and say, oh, okay, this rep is crushing it. This rep maybe needs a little bit more help this day. And it really, prevents, like Chris said, those reps from doing the bare minimum or trying to skate by when maybe you're not in the office that day. So it's a
absolutely.
great tool. Love that. Cool. So we wanted to keep, so basically, so you all know, this is one of a weekly product add-on webinar series where we're tackling just, the major pain points that all sales leaders face and support leaders. So we're going to be doing these weekly and we want to keep them short and sweet to about 30 minutes because we know we're all busy. So we're right on time. We want to leave 5 minutes for questions at the end, but I do hope you guys will join us for the next ones that we have in our series. We've got some great ones coming up on our Salesforce integration. Our HubSpot integration too is coming up, along with other features that we'll highlight. So lots more to come here, but these are for your convenience, very short and sweet, 30 minutes. So we do have 5 minutes for questions here at the end as promised. So what can we answer for you? Come on, you don't have to be shy. We're friendly, we
It might
promise.
just be typing furiously.
Sure, no problem.
Has anyone in the chat used a product like this before or voice analytics like this? Do you guys have any use cases for your teams that might be specific?
Okay, we've got a question here.
You can pull reports on Word Analytics, correct? Yes.
Yeah, that's a great one. I love that question. So yes, very possible. But yeah, to echo Chris's question, how familiar are you guys with these AI voice analytics type tools and conversational intelligence? Is this the first time you're seeing something like this, or is it something that you've tried to use before?
I think we got a shy group today, Jennifer.
I think we
There
do.
we go.
Yeah. Okay, recently started using the one Alloware offers, never used it before. Okay, that's great to hear.
Fantastic.
Well, we're so glad you joined us. Did you learn anything today that you didn't know? Not familiar, but very fascinating. Okay, great to hear, Michael. Glad you got some value. Yes, the chat feature. Okay, great. Awesome.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. We love this kind of feedback.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Lyle says, I've been using voice analytics for a few months now and it's worked great. Awesome. That's wonderful feedback. Still learning how to consistently incorporate it into one-on-one feedback trainings. Okay, cool. Yeah, I know sometimes it's just about having that honest conversation with reps and pulling those examples. You can pull up your dashboard and listen to calls together and jump to those exact points, like we mentioned, where they might need some help. So, yeah, just I think it's important to be honest and just have the evidence in front of you while you're doing training and enablement.
100%.
And with your daily digest, you can do that as well. You can even, copy and paste from that email or forward it to your reps if you're on the go and you need some quick coaching. Okay.
Irina, that's a great question. That's not currently a feature now. You could add negative or positive words and track those. Um, but that wouldn't affect the overall sentiment analysis. The sentiment analysis is based off the tonality. So it's not say word specific, but you could definitely add negative or positive words and track those. And if that answers your question, I think it gets you close to what you're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great answer, Chris. Thanks for that.
No problem.
Yeah, Michael says, I'm a product manager and I want to understand voice analytics to use with our voice services for our customers. Okay, interesting. That's definitely a cool take.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael. If you want to learn more, you can feel free to reach out to me directly if you'd like. I'll put my email here in the chat. And I'd love to learn more about your use case and what you're thinking about using voice analytics for, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have or get you connected or do a more in-depth demo if you'd like.
Yeah, definitely reach out to Chris. He'll help you out for sure. Other questions in the last minute or two before we wrap up? These are great, by the way. Keep them coming. I
Yeah,
love
fantastic.
it. So good to see the participation. Okay, well, if there's no more questions for today, like Chris said, he's available to chat. His team is fantastic at demos. You really do want to sit in on a demo with them, even if you're a current customer and you're familiar with our products, because I constantly learn new things just from our amazing sales reps. So you definitely want to get on there and see what they have to offer. But yeah, we hope this is just the start of the conversation and we can continue it. But we really appreciate all of your time today. We'll email out a recording so you can review and go over anything you might have missed or want to see again. And okay, perfect. Yep, we've got
I'm grabbing it right now, Mike. I'll shoot you an email after this once we hop off.
perfect. Awesome. So thank you guys so much again. Thank you, Chris, for being with us today. And yeah, we hope you learned something.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jennifer.
Take care. Have a good one. Bye.